Hello, everybody. It's Storytime with Teacher Gabe. Today we're reading The Puppy Who Wanted a Boy by Jane Thayer and illustrated by Lisa McCue. Let me see, make this full. Alright, I'm going to have to make this one a little bigger. Alright, here we go. One day, Petey, who was a puppy, said to his mother, who was a dog, "I'd like a boy for Christmas." His mother, who was a dog, said she thought he could have a boy if he was a very good puppy. So the day before Christmas, Petey's mother asked, "Have you been a very good puppy?" "Oh, yes," said Petey. "I didn't frighten the cat." "You didn't," said Petey's mother. "Well, I just frightened her a little," said Petey. "And I didn't chew any shoes." "Not any?" said his mother. "Just a teeny weeny chew," said Petey. "And I remember, well, almost always remembered, to bark when I wanted to go out." "All right," said his mother. I think you've been good for such a little dog. I will go out and get you a boy for Christmas." But when Petey's mother came back, she looked very worried. "How would you like a soft white rabbit with pink ears for Christmas?" she said to Petey. "No thanks," said Petey. "Do you want a lovely canary?" "I'd like a boy," said Petey. "How about some guppies?" said Petey's mother. "I just want a boy," said Petey. "Petey," said his mother at last, "there are no boys to be found." "No boys!" cried Petey. "Not one could I find. They're terribly short of boys this year." Petey thought he couldn't stand it if he didn't have a boy. Finally, his mother said, "There now, there must be a boy somewhere. Perhaps you could find some dog who would give his boy away." "Do you think I could?" asked Petey. "It wouldn't hurt to try," said his mother. So Petey started off. It wasn't long before he saw a collie. He saw a collie racing with a boy on a bicycle. Petey trembled with joy. "If I had a boy on a bicycle," said Petey to himself, "I could run like anything. I'll take a little run right now, and the collie politely if he'll give his boy away." So Petey leaped after the bicycle. He called out to the collie, "Excuse me, do you want to give your boy away?" But the collie said no, he definitely didn't, in a dreadful tone of voice. Petey sat down. He watched the collie and his boy on the bicycle until they were out of sight. "I didn't really want a boy on a bicycle anyway," said Petey. After a while, he saw a setter playing ball with a boy. Petey was delighted. "If I had a boy to play ball with," said Petey, "I'd catch the ball smack in my mouth. I'd like to catch the ball now." But he remembered how cross the collie had been. So he sat down on the sidewalk and called out politely, "Excuse me, do you want to give your boy away?" But the setter said no, he definitely didn't, in a terrifying tone of voice. "Oh well," said Petey, charting off. "I don't think playing ball is so much fun." Soon Petey came to a bulldog sitting in a car with a boy. Petey was pleased, for he was getting a little tired from so much walking. "If I had a boy in a car," said Petey, "I'd laugh at walking dogs. I'd like a ride right now." So he called out loudly, but very politely, "Excuse me, do you want to give your boy away?" But the bulldog said no, he definitely didn't, and he growled in Petey's face. "Uh-oh," said Petey. He hurried behind a house and stayed there until he saw the bulldog and his boy drive away. "Well, who wants to go riding in a car?" "Not me," said Petey, coming out from behind the house. He thought he would just rest a while. Though he had come a long way for such a little dog, he was limping a bit, and he started off again. Oh, he was limping a bit when he started off again. After a while, he met a Scotty, walking with his boy and carrying a package in his mouth. Now that is a good kind of boy, said Petey. If I had a boy to take walks with and carry packages for, there might be some dog biscuits or cookies in the package. I would like a cookie right now. He hadn't had any lunch, but he remembered how cross the collie and the setter and the bulldog had been. So he stayed across the street and shouted at the top of his lungs, but polite as could be, "Excuse me, do you want to give your boy away?" The Scotty had his mouth full of the package, but he managed to say no, he definitely didn't, and he showed his sharp teeth to Petey. I guess that wasn't the kind of boy I wanted either, said poor Petey. But my goodness, where can I find a boy? Well, Petey trotted on and on, but he couldn't find a single dog who would give his boy away. Petey's ears began to droop, his tail grew limp, his little legs were very tired. His mother was right. Or, my mother was right, he thought. There isn't a boy to be found. Just as it was getting dark, he came to a large building on the very edge of town. Petey was walking by slowly when he saw a sign, "Home for Boys." Maybe I could find a boy. Maybe I could find a boy here, said Petey to himself. These boys have no parents and no dogs to take care of. He padded slowly up the walkway of the home. He was so tired he could hardly lift his little paws. Then Petey stopped. He listened. He could hear music. He looked through the window. He saw a lighted Christmas tree and children singing carols. Then Petey saw something else on the front steps of the building. All by himself sat a boy. He was not a very big boy, and he looked lonely. Petey gave a glad little cry. He forgot about being tired. He leapt up and landed in the boy's lap. Sniff, sniff went Petey's little nose. Wag, wag went Petey's tail. He kissed the little boy with his warm, wet tongue. How glad the boy was to see Petey. He put both his arms around the little dog and hugged him tight. Then the front door opened, and a lady looked out. "Why, here you are, Ricky," she said. "What is our newest boy doing out here all alone? Come on in and sit near the Christmas tree." Petey sat very still. The boy sat still. The boy looked up at the lady and down at Petey. Petey began to tremble. Would the boy go in and leave him? "I'm not alone," said the boy. "I've got a puppy." "A puppy?" The lady came out and looked at Petey in surprise. "Can he come too?" said the boy. "Why," said the lady, "you're a nice little dog. Wherever did you come from? Yes, bring him in." "Come on, puppy," cried the boy. In they scampered. A crowd of boys was playing around the Christmas tree. They rushed at Petey. They picked him up and petted him. Petey wagged his tail. He wagged his fat little body. He frisked about and licked every one of the boys. "Can we keep him?" said one. "Can we give him some supper?" said another. "Can we fix him with a nice warm bed?" said a third. "We will give him some supper and a nice warm bed," said the lady. "And tomorrow we will find his mother and see if she will let him stay." Petey knew his mother would let him stay. She knew how much he wanted a boy. "But won't she be surprised," said Petey to himself, with a happy little grin, "when I tell her I got 50 boys for Christmas." All right, and that was The Puppy Who Wanted a Boy. Next, we have The Peanuts Shoot for the Moon, Snoopy, by Charles M. Schulz. No T in there. No T. Right. Oh, I'm going to have to make these bigger. Here we go. All right. And then just have to move this. There we go. Okay. One fine morning, Snoopy sat on his doghouse reading an astronaut training book for dogs. NASA was sending astronauts to the moon again, and he was determined to be one of them. "I was the first beagle on the moon," he thought. "I'll be the second one, too." Charlie Brown walked by. "If you want to fit into your spacesuit, Snoopy, you better start training," he said. Charlie Brown was right. Snoopy headed straight for the park for training after grabbing a snack, of course. Snoopy stood under a tree warming up for his exercises. He stretched slowly to the right, gradually to the left, then back to the right. In between stretches, he enjoyed bites of a giant sandwich. This sure beats the freeze-dried dog food they'll serve on the spaceship, he thought. Peppermint Patty and Marcy were also at the park. Look, Snoopy. Look, sir, Snoopy is exercising under that tree, Marcy said, and he's got a giant sandwich. Peppermint Patty jumped down from her swing and said, Well, I'm curious and hungry. Let's go see what he's up to. Hi, Snoopy, nice sandwich, Peppermint Patty said. And nice to see you, Marcy added. Snoopy showed them his astronaut training book and then pointed to a headline in the newspaper. NASA preparing to blast off to the moon and beyond, Marcy read aloud. Snoopy smiled proudly. They're looking for good beagles. You're going to space? Peppermint Patty exclaimed. I could use a visual aid for my science report next week. Do you think you could bring back a moon rock? Snoopy nodded. Thanks, Peppermint Patty said. If a real moon rock won't earn me a C+, I don't know what will. Well, I think a real moon rock would earn you a little more than a C+. Peppermint Patty leaned over Marcy's shoulder. The mission starts tomorrow, Peppermint Patty said. Good grief, Snoopy, it takes years of intense work to go to the moon. You need to get into spaceship shape right away, and we're going to help. We don't have enough time, sir, Marcy protested. Don't call me sir, Peppermint Patty roared. Call me Coach. Then Peppermint Patty turned to Snoopy. We're going to help you train. We'll show the world you've got the right stuff. You can be quite motivating when you want to be, Sir Coach, Marcy said. Does this mean I can't finish my sandwich? Snoopy wondered. Marcy flipped through Snoopy's book. Since liftoff is tomorrow, we'll assume you know the math required for your mission. I hope you've calculated the correct distance and speed that you'll need to break out of the Earth's atmosphere. Yes, of course, Snoopy thought. I can also confirm that, regrettably, the moon is not actually made of cheese. Then, let's start with some intense physical activity, Peppermint Patty declared. Do 20 jumping jacks and run 3 laps around the park. Snoopy groaned. That sounded a bit too intense. It's important to exercise in space, Marcy said. The low gravity affects your muscles, so you need to use them to stay healthy. Snoopy still wasn't convinced. Then Marcy said, Besides, after a workout, you can treat yourself to freeze-dried ice cream. Now Snoopy was convinced. It took a while, but Snoopy finished his workout regimen. Marcy was surprised. The fact that you're a beagle and can do 1 jumping jack is impressive. She's right. Great work, Peppermint Patty said, patting Snoopy on the back. You've earned a little break. Snoopy immediately lay down to take a nap. After a while, Peppermint Patty woke up Snoopy. Get up, old pal. I'm going to show you what it's like to move in a low gravity environment. Snoopy was confused. I thought napping was a low gravity environment. Gravity is the force that holds your feet on the ground, Marcy explained. The moon has less gravity than Earth, which means you'll float around like a balloon filled with helium. Peppermint Patty agreed. But don't worry, it won't make your voice sound funny. Here, Snoopy, I'll demonstrate. Peppermint Patty plopped Snoopy down on one end of the seesaw. He was immediately suspicious. I'm going to jump on the other end of this seesaw and launch you right up into the air, Peppermint Patty said. As you're falling, you'll get an idea of what it's like when gravity isn't holding you down. Isn't that clever? Snoopy did not think it was clever. Sir Coach, Marcy said, I have another idea. Why don't we use the fountain? Peppermint Patty was confused. A fountain? We're not throwing pennies and making wishes. And stop calling me Sir Coach. Marcy explained that Snoopy could float in the water. He would learn what it feels like to move around while his feet aren't touching the ground. Peppermint Patty sighed. We can try it, I guess, but it's not as exciting as my seesaw idea. I think Snoopy will be happy that he's not being launched on the seesaw. Inside the fountain, Snoopy floated on his back. He glided around by moving his arms up and down. How does that feel? Peppermint Patty asked. Do you feel lighter than air? Snoopy shrugged and thought, it feels like I'm in a giant bird bath. Don't tell Woodstock, though. I wouldn't want him to get jealous. The last thing we need to do, Sir Coach, is show Snoopy what it's like to walk on the moon, Marcy said. According to the book, the surface of the moon is covered in craters, rocks, and a lot of dust. Peppermint Patty paused to think. We may need to go to Pigpen's place for his training. Marcy presented an easier solution. How about we try the sandbox instead? Snoopy stepped into the sandbox. He took a small step, and the sand crunched beneath his feet. Just imagine you're on the moon, Peppermint Patty said. You're in space, surrounded by stars. How do you feel? Snoopy smiled and thought, I feel like I've got so much more to explore. Snoopy climbed out of the sandbox. Snoopy, Marcy, and I have done our best to train you. All you need now is a rocket, Peppermint Patty said. Snoopy was exhausted, but proud his training was complete. Excellent, he thought. Now I can finish my sandwich. Too far. Peppermint Patty and Marcy walked Snoopy home. We're proud of you, Snoopy, Peppermint Patty said. You learned a lot, and you never gave up. Snoopy smiled. I couldn't have done it without you, Sir Coach. Charlie Brown was surprised to see Peppermint Patty and Marcy. What are you two doing here? He asked. We've been training Snoopy for his mission to the moon, Marcy announced. Mission to the moon? Charlie Brown repeated. Of course, Chuck, Peppermint Patty said. Don't you read the newspapers? I'm going to have to make this page smaller. There we go. I wonder if he will really make it to the moon, Charlie Brown said. Suddenly, Snoopy leapt out from behind his doghouse wearing a brand new spacesuit. Ta-da! They all laughed. I think he's going to try, said Marcy. If any beagle can do it, it's Snoopy, agreed Peppermint Patty. Snoopy proudly held up his head. Here's the world-famous astronaut blasting off for the moon. All right, and that was Shoot for the Moon, Snoopy. And that was all the stories I have for today. Thank you guys for reading with me. I hope you guys have a good day. Let me see.